Welcome back to the Nullified Take, where we've got the TNT takes for you on Survivor 42, Episode 4. I am joined today here by the man, the myth, the legend, the Russell, who has got a plan to take down the other Russell on YouTube, RussellMuscleTv. How you doing, Russell?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to be here. Talk Survivor as always. And exactly, if you're unaware, if you haven't seen my channel before, I have a plan, a step. We're going to take down Russell Hamp soon. That's not what we're talking about today, though. We're talking about Survivor Season 42, Episode 4.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to getting into it with you. But before we go into it, I just want to say thank you for allowing me to jump on your channel and to collaborate with you this week on who we believe the top 10 biggest challenge beasts of all time currently in Survivor worldwide is. Thank you so much for that. Who did you get the most heat for not including on this list? Because you know the fans always
Yeah.
will riot, you know.
I got attacked in the comments for that video. And when you do a top 10 like that, especially for bringing international in as well, you're not going to win anyway. I wanted to put Sophie in there for beating Ozzy in a challenge. I got a lot of heat for putting Sophie in. A lot of heat for not including Terry, including Joe, and including Tom Westman. But you're not going to win. It was a fun video. And yeah, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, it's always difficult, especially when you start adding the international players into it, because we had like 3 international players in the top 10, so it only left 7 actual US competitors on that list. So obviously that probably took the spot away from someone like a Joey or Terry or whoever else we may have missed out on that list. We've got a couple of people here on the live stream, Dan saying, "Hey Russell," so someone that follows your channel. Yes, no, yeah, also in here. We've got a saying over here in New Zealand, which is yeah, nah, or yeah, nah, nah. So it kind of reminds me of that because it makes people always confused. So is it yes or is it no? But completely off topic. What has been your sort of feelings about Survivor 42? Obviously, you do a lot of your own content, shorter form videos and things like that. Survivor 41 was controversial before it even started because people heard that it was only going to be 26 episodes. Then they brought so many new twists and dynamics to the game. We're now seeing it play out for a second time on our screens. And how are you feeling about this season so far as an overall?
I think going into the season, when we got one of those first previews from Jeff Probst, he says, "Okay, we're going to do the experiment the exact same way." I was like, "Oh no, what are we doing?" Season 41, like, look, I'm on the boat where any survivor is better than having no survivor. Season 41 was not the best. Let's just put it that way. It was not the best. And Jeff saying, "Okay, we're doing the exact same thing again." Season 41 was so good. I was worried, but everything was going good. I'm loving the season so far. Jonathan's my favorite character. Does he have a chance of winning? I mean, no, I don't think so. We can talk about that a little later. But it's been every episode's been hitting it out of the park. This week might have been the most average episode, but you don't need every episode to be home runs. Again, season 42 up here, season 41 right here.
Yeah, I agree with you. And it's interesting because a lot of the comments online were that season 41 had a great cast, but the twist let the cast down. But I kind of feel like this is showing that maybe the cast wasn't as good as we thought they were, because we've got a different cast here with the same twist and they're doing different things out there, which is making for a lot more entertaining TV as a whole. And I've been really enjoying it. And I mean, we kind of start off here with the tribe here, the Vati tribe going back to camp. There's a lot of back and forth here, Daniel needing to put out fires, but I was very interested in the approach by both Daniel and Chanel here, because Daniel doesn't want to immediately address it at camp. Chanel wants to clear her name immediately. And to me, if you're telling the truth, you're going to want to clear your name immediately. So I thought that this looked really bad on Daniel here in this spot.
Yeah, I think Chanel comes off a little better than I don't know how Chanel gets away with being scot-free here. All the blame's on Daniel. But I can see the point where Daniel's coming from, given it the 12-hour rule, or I've heard the 24-hour rule before. Sometimes in heated situations, especially in a tribal council like that, people are really fired up and heated. You need to take a little bit of time to cool off, prepare your thoughts before going at it again. Because no matter what, even if you are the one telling the truth, everyone's heated. And if they're mad at you, it's not going to matter if you're telling the truth. They're still going to be mad at you. So I get his idea about, okay, guys, next morning, let's all try and have a good sleep. But I think he screwed himself too much, that tribal council before.
Yeah. And I think it's something about his vibe as well. He doesn't come across as being a very trustworthy person, where Chanel in general seems to be a bit more calm and relaxed. And the last thing you want in Survivor is unpredictability. And I think Daniel screams unpredictability in the way that he moves in the game. And he even here tells Mike that Mike is not actually his number one, which sort of chases Mike into the arms of High here, where he finds a new home in the game.
Yeah, we need to talk about that, especially High plays this perfectly, especially last episode as well. Last episode and this episode, High's playing all these situations almost pitch perfect. Chanel and Daniel say the night before, okay, we're gonna split the votes. Some votes on Mike, some votes on Jenny. In reality, they didn't actually want Mike to go home. It was just for their plan to get Lydia out. But High doesn't need to tell Mike that. High just says, look, they want me to throw your name out. I decided not to. I'm here for you, Mike. High played that perfectly.
Yeah, very, very impressed by both of them. I think Mike also knowing that he needs to change it up here, go somewhere else, because clearly Daniel is not someone that is going to stand by him. And it doesn't look like Mike's got that same relationship with Chanel that Daniel's got. So he's got to go somewhere else and find a new home in the game. And this is the interesting thing for me, because when you look at Vati and Ika, there are two tribes that are completely self-destructing at this point in the game. And for me, Taku, dare I say, may be my favorite tribe ever in Survivor history. And I've watched every single season. I've had a lot of favorite tribes in the past, but they're just such a likable bunch.
Yeah, Taku is my favorite tribe as well. And we get to see them enjoying themselves on the reward, which we didn't need to see. Survivor's moving in that direction where they don't show every reward every episode. They specifically want to show us how close they are as a unit. Before we get there, though, we don't get much else on Vati this episode. Do you see anyone from Vati winning the game? Like, can Vati win?
The only person I've got still high on my rankings is High. Yeah. I think he's the only person who's got a chance. But outside of that, I just don't see the way forward. I think Mike will surprise us and go deeper in the game than what we think. But I don't have high hopes for Daniel. I don't have high hopes for Chanel or Lydia. Lydia, who is Lydia even? Like, we're not seeing her on the
Lydia
screen.
has a great Twitter. That's it.
Well, that makes you wonder, like, if she's got this personality, it's somewhere getting lost out there on the show where we just don't see it, and it doesn't pop on the camera. The editors don't value it at this stage. So, but yeah, I don't think we're seeing anybody from this tribe win. I guess next part here is we do go into the reward challenge, and it was quite funny how the reward challenge is basically 10 freshly cut fish that they win here. How much is the rewards on Survivor fallen down? I mean, like, Survivor, just taking everything away from people. Obviously, it makes for interesting TV. You can either be for it or against it, that they don't even get half a cup of rice. But for me, the interesting thing here is that, if they wanted to do budget cuts, this is as budget as it gets. But out there, these 10 fish is the difference between having fuel for the immunity challenge and not.
Yeah, and if you want to talk about another difference between Survivor 41, Survivor 42, last season, they give them one fish on a reward. This time they get 10 big fish. You can talk about budget cuts or whatever you want. That's a big difference. So I think making small differences here and there, 10 fish are going to give you more energy, maybe more energetic on the TV screen. So I'm liking everything. All the small changes they do between 41 and 42 have all been positives. But we got to talk about how dominating Taku was. I don't think it was just Jonathan that made this tribe do so well. I think it's just they actually are a tight family. They worked better together.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Jonathan just is always going to get the heat because, Jeff threw him out there as one of the most dominant challenge beasts we've seen, or one of the most dominant challenge performances in the previous episode. But I do think that this challenge being tethered together, there's a certain element of communication that is required to untangle yourself. There is a certain amount of, everybody having to shoot the ball into the hoop at the end to actually win it. So this was not a challenge that you could have beasted out on your own. So hats off to the whole Taku tribe. And one of the things I really enjoy about Jonathan, I know he's your man, and talking about your man, we've got Jake who just popped in as well. Jake loves Jonathan as well. In fact, he's ranked him his number one player for 2 weeks in a row in the game. So he might even like him more than you, Russell, at this stage. But, talking about this tribe, Jonathan does deflect a lot of that attention that comes his way. He tries to, at least, and he tries to share the credit with the rest of his tribe, which I think shows that he's got some social awareness, but he does make a really big mistake here when he tells everybody how close they are. What do you think about that, Russell?
We need to talk about that. Like, was it really that big of a mistake? Like, I understand you're a tight group. They don't know that no tribe swaps are going to happen. So that's a bad thing to say. But I really think that we're just grasping at straws for something to talk about on the Taku tribe. Because in reality, I don't know if it's that big of a deal, but we want to spend as much time on this fun tribe as we can. So they heighten it up more than it really was. That's my opinion on it, at least.
Jake, what was your thoughts on this?
Yeah, first off, I want to say I'm sorry I'm late. I completely spaced out the time zones. I thought
That's all right.
Yeah. So anyways, about Jonathan's gaff, yeah, I kind of agree. I'm not sure it's as much of a big deal as they're kind of making it out to be. And one thing I want to say is it's interesting that they even left that reward challenge in there, because we know from past seasons, especially 41, that there were quite a few reward challenges left on the cutting room floor. So the fact that they left this one in there when, it was a complete blowout, wasn't very exciting. So maybe it does come into play later on,
The winner's coming from Taku.
Has to be.
Yeah, like why else show it, right?
I mean, yeah, and even besides that, I think Chris and I both just had a feeling that like this tribe, it's got the winner on it.
Yeah, we've got Christian here in the live chat saying hello, everybody. Yes, no, saying hi is a pretty good player right now, which he agrees with me that he or she agrees that High is someone that probably in that tribe has still got the only chance of winning this. But I do agree with both of you guys. Why show this? And one of the things that I do appreciate so far is we've seen less of Shipwheel Island this season than what we saw in the previous season. And I'm not a big fan of anything that takes away from camp life. Like, I like to see more camp life. I like to see a little bit more of the social dynamics and things like that. So seeing less of that has been good for me this season, and cutting back on that and rather seeing the reward. And I do think that this does play into, Lindsay saying that they can see the other tribes are just sort of falling away because they haven't been eating recently, and the momentum is with Taku. They've got a full belly. They've got the energy to push on and do well in these challenges. What I also found very interesting to see here, Russell, is that when they go back to camp, Marianne and both Omar laughs this whole thing off, and they're not angry at Jonathan, which again shows how great of a social game Jonathan has, because I think in other seasons, like myself and Jake, we had Jonathan was my last pick on the draft picks that we did this season, because I just said, this guy's too physical. He stands out. He's the only really big young alpha guy out there. He's going to stand out like a sore thumb, but he has somehow found a way to get past that and use that to his strength to try and be of service to his tribe, like he says here in this episode.
Yeah, and I got to ask Jake, so do you think putting him number one, is he your winner pick, or you're just having the most fun with him?
I think for the power rankings, my train of thought is like, who is just playing really well right now? Like Jonathan, zero chance of going home in the next episode. At least that was my thought when we did the power rankings. By the way, I want to say Chris and I were very low on Jonathan in the preseason. I still stand by that 100%. I don't care what anyone says. This man did not mention a single lick of strategy of how he was going to play the game besides win challenges. What are we supposed to think of that? I mean, that's all.
He reminds me. We had Chappies do a little bit of a cameo on Russell Muscle's video, and a lot of people were surprised by that. Chappies loves the fans, so he'll always engage. But, Chappies was similar to that in Survivor South Africa. Before the season, he talked himself up so much where people thought this guy's going to have no game. And he did have game when he got out there, and he was dominant in performances. He also had a very similar performance to Jonathan when Jonathan saved some of his tribe mates.
Yeah.
I think Chappies, even there was people who were actually in danger of drowning when Chappies saved them in that challenge. So, so there's a lot of similarities. They both have been called Aquamen, in their season. So it's interesting to see this play out. But yeah, I'm very happy with Jonathan as both a player and a character at this stage. At some point, we will bring up where I'll maybe do it now, since we've spoken about the power rankings a few times. I'll bring up so you can see, Russell, where we're currently sitting on our power rankings of who we think is going to be the top players at this stage. So these are the top three players, according to us, week 1, week 2, and week 3 combined. So you've got Jonathan out in first place. You've got Omar in second place. Omar is my personal winner pick at this stage. I think he's winning this season, and I think that he's just sitting behind Jonathan. Jonathan's probably going to be quite dominant when he gets to the merge, win a lot of immunities. Let's hope he breaks that record that's been there since season 2. That'll be impressive to see. And I do think, like I said, High is not completely out of it yet, but there is definitely very interesting a big focus on the guys here this season, Jake. When pre-season, if you remember correctly, Jake, we were a lot higher on the women. We didn't think that there was going to be any men out there that were going to impress us.
Yeah, we were complete opposite. I believe last podcast we did, I think all of us had only men, which is
except for Kian. Kian, I think, had Marianne as number 3.
She did. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's just, well, first of all, let's see who's gone home in terms of like men, women. So Jackson, Zach.
Only 2 guys is Zach and Jackson.
So I guess more women have left than men, but still, I think that, I mean, my main girl, Chanel, I mean, we all know how she's doing at the moment. So
better than Daniel, though. Better than your main guy. So Jake has got both Daniel and Chanel as his number 1 and 2 pick for the season.
Probably the most tragic like draft picks. Like just one episode, just crap. I mean, there's still plenty of episodes left, but I mean, it seems like we're all kind of on the same page where we think someone from Taku is, which I believe, were they the tribe that we were the lowest on?
Yes.
Wow.
They were preseason picks. And that's why I love Russell. This is why I love doing the preseason picks based on like the limited information that we have, because you most of the time get it wrong because you've got producers out there telling you to say certain things and egging you on prior to the game starting. Like, hey, Jonathan, talk yourself up about how many pull-ups you did to get into the Guinness World Book of Records. Tell us why you're going to be so great. And they'll get him to sound a certain way. And then he goes out there and then he becomes naturally who he is as a person, which is a genuinely nice guy. And he's this big teddy bear type of fella, but he's in tune with his emotions, which shows that there's a lot of depth to him that we couldn't see prior to the season starting. So it's just funny how sometimes you can judge a book by its cover, and we make that mistake season after season, and they go out there and they're completely different.
Well, I got to say, so preseason, I don't know any Bootless or anything, but my preseason Bootless prediction, obviously we couldn't guess Jackson was going to get medically evacuated, but first going out, I had Zach. First person going out on Jenny's tribe, I had Jenny, and then first person going out on Taku, I had Mariah. So I was 3 for 3 for every single tribe.
That is amazing. I think I was the only one I was right on was Mariah. I didn't think she was going to go deep, but I did fit. Jackson, we were low on as well, actually. We weren't high on Jackson either. Jenny, I was extremely high on. Jenny was my first girl pick based on the preseason, and she ended up completely getting obliterated. But yeah, you get some right, you get
it's
some wrong.
Like, what else are we going to do in the preseason?
Exactly. But in this episode, which is really interesting to me, is that we do get to see a little bit of the workings here in the Blue Tribe in Ika, which we didn't see much of them in the previous episode, to the point where a lot of us, I think, wrote them completely off as potential winners, because normally you get at least one check-in with the winner per episode. I know there has been exceptions to that rule, but in general, you'd expect to see something. Now, in Ika, it was quite interesting because we knew that Swati was a little bit of a silent assassin. She wasn't willing to play with Drea, who really badly wanted to get this all-girls alliance going, but the girls in this tribe cannibalize each other, which is really interesting, with Swati telling Tori that they need to make a move here on Drea in this episode. What did you think of this dynamic with the girls not being able to put it together? Because like we all know as Survivor fans, when girl alliances do come together, it hasn't happened a lot. They're pretty dominant.
Well, we can talk about this 2 ways. Was Tori playing really well, or was Swati playing really bad? It might be a little mix of both, but I think Swati had no reason doing this. Everyone knew Tori was on the bottom. And doing this just gave Tori leverage to go to people and say, hey, look, Swati's doing this, which we'll talk about later in the episode. But I think it kind of goes both ways. Swati wanted to play this game, and I respect her for that. She's not a teenager. She's in the game 20 years old. But all these really young players, when they go out there to play Survivor, they tend to sit back and just kind of watch things happen and be a passive player. Not Swati. She wanted to go out there full steam ahead. It's just maybe cut it back a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. And I think the most interesting thing here, Jake, was that, in this specific segment, we see a lot of Roxroy. It's either Roxroy's way or the highway, and how he's annoying his tribe mates, trying to tell them how to do things and feeling the need to be the leader in camp. What did you think of Roxroy's game here? And, especially towards the end, they don't even tell Roxroy what the plan is because of the fact that he needs to be the person who's always in control.
Yeah, I mean, being the leader of your tribe is fine. I mean, we see Jonathan this season. He's basically the leader of his tribe, and he's doing fine. But he's just rubbing people the wrong way. And I think Tori even said it, unless it comes out of his mouth, an idea comes out of his mouth, it's not being treated with respect at all. And I just think that's just kind of common decency, a bit of lacking. And I think it may have been a bit harsh by Tori to say that he was showcasing some narcissistic tendencies. I mean, wow, that's
I love Tori's a little bit of gameplay here when she goes up to him and she says, I don't know how we would have made it out here without you. Thank you so much for guiding us. And she's really playing into his ego and using a little bit of that psychologist tricks that she's got up her sleeves, in this episode, which was brilliant because it does build a little bit of trust here, I believe, with Roxroy at this stage in the game. And the interesting part is that she does tell Roxroy that Dreas got an extra vote, which Roxroy wasn't aware of, Russell. If you were Roxroy and you found out that your closest ally haven't told you about one of these secrets in the game, I had Roxroy as one of my biggest losers for this episode, losing Swati in the game.
Yeah, well, we can tell by how the votes went. Roxroy is now on the bottom of the tribe. He voted with Swati to vote against Tori. I think that if you're Roxroy, you probably do tell the tribe anyway, throw Tori on under the bus even more. But did Tori make a mistake? Did Tori go too far by telling Roxroy this? I want to know. What do you guys think?
I think maybe she should have consulted Swati on what she thought, because Swati's the one that told her the information. So it's, in a way, it's not really her right to tell, I guess. I mean, then as we see, it traces back to Swati. So I mean, if Tori really did trust Swati at the time, then I think maybe she should have gone to her first.
Yeah,
100%.
Daily dose of Stan Twitter here in the live saying, oh my God, hi to everyone. And then also here, Christian saying, Roxroy and Lydia are people that can be dragged to the end and will not win. I think Roxroy, definitely, you can mark that down. People are not necessarily going to respect that game. But I do think Tori, if she gets to the merge, she's going to be the first one to flip and be out of this foursome here. She knows she's been at the bottom for quite a long time, and she's just sort of managed to get one vote ahead of Swati here. But if she somehow gets to that merge, I wouldn't be surprised if she tries to go and find and other people that are outside of their alliance, like a Daniel or a Chanel. I think a lot of people are going to try and get in with the tight four of Taku because they're going to want to look for some stability. And I think that Taku will have a lot of control going into the merge due to the facts that they're so tight. And I think that could be a reason why we saw a little bit of that narrative here in this episode where they talked to the fact that they were so tight as a unit going in, because we know that a tight four, think back in Russell's original season where they were four people going into a merge, they can go and outplay bigger majority alliances, or in this case, there isn't even a bigger majority alliance. There is two fractured tribes. I really think that people are going to try and look for a safe haven with this orange tribe in the future, and they're going to try and see if they can get ahead in the game that way.
Yeah, I'm praying that next episode, because we have one episode and then we have the merge episode, the hourglass, I'm guessing, because in 2 weeks, it's a 2-hour block. That's going to be our hourglass. So I'm really hoping that next week's tribal council, Vachi's ended up going and voting someone out. Because if that happens, going into the merge, it's going to be 4-4-4. That's going to be so interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it'll be a very, very interesting merge. And I think that the Titus tribe might just find a way to get ahead and leverage some votes. But I really, really hope that the hourglass thing does not come back in. I hope that Danny last season made enough of a noise behind the scenes, and there was a lot that did not make the show because he was that upset with production for taking the win away from them. I really hope we don't see that, because it really didn't sit well with me as a fan to see someone go and win immunity and earn it, and then that gets ripped away from them.
Well, I'm going to paint the picture for you right now. We all think Jonathan, whatever you think, he's a fan favorite. We all love him. Going into the hourglass, if it's a thing, Jonathan's going to win the challenge for his tribe. Boom, someone smashes the hourglass. Boom, Jonathan's vulnerable. Oh, he's the biggest player in the game. We're going into a merge. Let's vote him out. He doesn't make the jury. I'm so scared that's going to happen.
If that happens, like, honestly, I feel like the show will lose like another million viewers. Like, people will just stop watching the show altogether because he is such a big fan favorite at this stage. Like, I think he is a lock to be like the first returning player from this season based on what we've seen so far. Like, you want to see him go up against some other great competitors, and fingers crossed, we like all of this background story about Jonathan's, wanting to play this game as a kid and the training he did with his dad running up a mountain, and between him and his brother, whoever came last had to do it 3 more times. Hopefully that does pay off in the end, and we do see a great merge game here as well. So I'm fingers crossed that does not happen. I do want to talk about the immunity challenge here. And again, we're going to stick with Jonathan. I mean, the guy is such a big presence here in this season, but Jake, he single-handedly moved that boat, and Marianne had to like swim out of the way for her life because the boat nearly ran her over out there in the water. Once again, we just see how dominating he is as a physical presence.
I mean, I'm surprised that he didn't ask Jeff before, like, hey, is it okay if I'm just the only swimmer here? Because
it's dangerous for Marianne. You might want to get her out of the way.
Yeah. Like, she was literally behind the boat. Like, I mean, it's crazy. And I believe that he did do swim in college or high school.
He was under scholarship for 9 months, but then left college to start his beach rental business.
My God.
And he does not have the physique of a swimmer, by the way. Like, swimmers,
and he didn't have the technique either. He was splashing, but he was moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, a very aggressive stroke. And I mean, I'm no swimmer myself, but I mean, it was working.
Didn't look elegant, like really good swimmer. It's like elegant, Think Shane Gould, an Australian survivor, when she was on, and she was like a former Olympian, and you could just see like there's hardly any splashing, but she's moving, But I would still put Jonathan up against most people, even with his broken technique. He's just going to beast through them, out there on the challenge. But this one came down to a puzzle. And I do like these kind of puzzles, Russell, where you are forced to build it with the gravity against you, and you can't work on the outer layers. You've got to start from the top and work your way down, because it kind of makes the puzzle a little bit more difficult. And like Daniel said, at the end of the day, the puzzle ended up being a great equalizer here for the other 2 tribes.
Yeah, and I mean, the puzzle is always the great equalizer. It always comes down to the neck and neck at the end. And you got to give a round of applause to the Survivor producers. Somehow, the challenges are always so close in the end. Like, these puzzles are done so well, and they know how to put every single thing in every spot of these challenges to have them have these tight finishes. And a little fun fact to people that don't know, a lot of the times if people try to build parts of the challenge on the ground, Jeff's going to yell at them saying, no, what are you doing? You got to build the challenge properly going down. If you start going on the ground, Jeff's going to throw it away from you and make you restart. But
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
because we always get fans saying that. We always get fans saying, why are they not putting it down next to the challenge and building it out first?
No. You got to build it. And when it's on the table, you got to build it on the table too. You can't do it first.
Wow.
Yeah.
I feel like that's probably something, because I remember in the early seasons people did that, but it's probably something where they thought, no, they're gaming the system too much here. Right. They're getting past it. We need to change the rules on them a little bit to make it harder, so that the challenge is actually, or the puzzle is built in the way that it's supposed to be built out there. Also, just want to mention here, Christian in the chat says that there is a sneak peek of episode 5, apparently, where Tori is flipping or planning on jumping ship on her tribe. So I haven't seen that yet. So sounds like I may have been reading that situation correctly.
Yeah, boom, there you go. But jumping ship where?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not merged yet. But Christian also says, do you guys think that seasons 43 and 44 is going to be 26 days instead of 39 days because of the Fiji COVID quarantine protocol restrictions in Fiji? And being in New Zealand, I'm probably the closest to Fiji, and we get updates about Fiji all the time over here in regards to if we can travel there or if we can't travel into Fiji. Fiji still has some of the more strict COVID quarantine rules even to date. New Zealand's just coming out of a lot of those. Actually, as of yesterday, we finally opened our country up to international travel again for the first time in like 2 years. So, Fiji itself, I think, is still under some pretty strict rules. So unless things change in the next 2 or 3 months, whenever they decide to go out there and film, we may still see 2 more seasons of 26 days. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not a fan of the 26 days, but if it means that we get Survivor, I will take it.
Yeah, 100%. They normally film like middle of April to June, so it's going to be coming soon. Get ready for those season 43, season 44 spoilers.
Yeah, Dan says that I read an article about Jeff planning to make the 26-day format permanent to save some budget. I heard something about that as well, but that was before the backlash of season 41. But one of the things I will say is that if you bring a twist into the game long enough, then people kind of start moving with it. Like the first couple of seasons, people don't like it. Then they get used to the new format. So I wouldn't be surprised. There's going to be a whole bunch of new school fans that are going to watch this who may not care so much about that 39-day format. And I like the 39-day format, but one of the things that I like about the 26-day format, Russell, is that I feel like it gives power back to providers, which providers in Survivor have not been looked after for a long time. Like Ozzy's superpower of being able to go out there and catch fish, be a provider for his tribe, that got taken away when they provided them with enough food to survive. Now they give them nothing. So Ozzy or Joey Amazing or one of those players, they become more valuable to their tribe now in this future meta of Survivor, which I think is a good thing. And the 26-day format has allowed for this format that we're seeing playing out on our screens right now.
Yeah, I would almost argue both ways. Like if we could do 39 days of Survivor, but make it the hardest season in Survivor history, I'd be more down for that. Because I remember some post-game interviews Xander had. He talked about how the few times he would go out hunting, looking for food, fishing, you almost can't do that. You're kind of trapped because it's in 2-day blocks, 2-day voting cycles. If you're gone for that split second, it's a little more difficult. People will be forgiving because there's no food out there. But those 2-day voting cycles make it hard to trust. So both ways.
Yeah, and it's also, I think it makes it hard to like come up with a good counter plan because you've got less time to strategize to change the direction of the game. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But Jake, what is your thoughts on the potential of the season of the show staying on a 26 days? Christian here says the fans are going to be pissed if it's 26 days because the editing is too fast.
Yeah, I think it's more like affects the players because I mean, let's be honest here. If they never told us that it was 26 days, would we have noticed? I mean, they edited it in a certain way where it just, looks the same as ever. I mean, there's a lot of downtime out there where they're just kind of sitting there, just kind of suffering, and they kind of cut that part out. And, maybe it's too extreme. I mean, it was cut by a third of what it was before. It's a bit drastic, and I know, Chris, that you don't really like them suffering out there, and they had to like make.
I don't like. Let me just for Russell's sake, for Russell's sake, because Russell's like, what do you mean Chris doesn't like them suffering? We all love them suffering. I don't like that they don't get the basic necessity of food, like half a cup of rice, because to me, when you take that rice away from someone, they become zombies out there, and I feel like they can't think clearly, and we're less likely to see great strategic gameplay. Like, I mean, you could clearly see last season when they got to the merge, people like Chantal, I feel like her game got worse and worse the longer it went on because she was so malnutritioned, and the same with people like Ricard, who really struggled, and there was other people out there where you could just tell they didn't have that energy about them that they had in the beginning of the game, and I don't like seeing that. I feel like it takes away from explosive gameplay and great personalities popping on screen when they've got no energy. That's my point on that.
I think I agree. Generally, I mean, it's like, why? Yeah, I mean, I get like the budget thing, but come on, Survivor, you make plenty. You don't need to like be saving all this money for what? You're staying in Fiji. You're not spending all this money, going to different places. If that's what it was for, then okay, sure. But I think the reasoning behind it initially was like, okay, yeah, they have to quarantine, so it's like a longer or a shorter cycle to make up for it. But if you're planning on making it permanent just because you realized it was saving all this money, yeah, it's just cheap. Yeah.
I would argue that season 40 was faster paced than season 41 too, right?
Yeah.
Like we wouldn't notice. The only thing I noticed was going into the late game of season 41, final tribal council, things like that, the jury was too bitter. Like they're kind of voting in these directions because they didn't have time to digest. Okay,
Yep.
let's make a proper decision. Even Erica's a great one. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying there were maybe hard feelings because they didn't have enough time on Ponderosa.
Yeah. And I also felt like people went into season 41 with different agendas. Like I know it doesn't get spoken about very often in podcasts because people are scared of mentioning it. But in my opinion, there was different agendas. This was one of the more diverse seasons that they had. I think that Xander wasn't a representative of what people wanted to see win that season. And let's be honest, let's not beat around the bush on that. I'm not taking away anything from Erica as a player. She clearly did enough right to get the vote over Deshaun that season, who could have been a person that they would have looked at and said, well, he would be a great winner or a representative of this season. But I feel like Xander was drawing dead going into that final regardless, just because of the new era of Survivor. And he isn't somebody that people would have said aesthetically would have been the greatest representation of what they were trying to do that season. And it's one of the reasons that I really enjoyed this season, because there is, and I know people will always say there has to be, Survivor is a microcosm of what is happening in society. I understand that, but we watch Survivor for entertainment. I do not watch Survivor to get preached to. So I've really enjoyed this season because it has been pure gameplay and pure personalities, and I get to choose who I like without having to listen to other things that is not game related, in my opinion. I don't know how you guys feel about it. I don't know if you can talk to that. I know you're in America. It's very sensitive over there sometimes. But for me, as an outsider, not being an American, that's why I watch Survivor. I watch it for the great gameplay.
I'm Canadian. Just want to say that.
There you go.
I'm not American. I would say major thing is like the culture. Whoever sets the tone, people are gonna follow that. And so maybe it was Shan. She was the loudest one out there, making lots of decisions or whatever it was. Whoever sets the tone, people are going to follow that. And it looks like so far in Survivor 42, the tone's not going that direction. And that's why we're not hearing that discussions as much, right? If that's the conversation you keep having, especially at Tribal Council with Jeff, all these things, it's going to keep coming up. Producers are going to ask you these questions. Maybe it's not coming up as much this season.
Yeah, and you're right, because we say this every single season, is that you've got to play to the jury and the players you've got around you, and what one jury values this season might not be valued next season, and different things might get you the win in a different season, basically. So that's what makes a player such as Sandra very impressive, that she can win in 2 different seasons. A player like Tony so impressive because they can win in 2 different seasons as well, and they can adapt to what that specific jury wants of them in that specific season that they're playing. But I do know we've gone a little bit off topic here. We do go back to the Blue Tribe on the spot, and with being back at Tribe, Drea now needs to make some moves. She knows that the dagger is coming out from Swati. Swati is going to try and knife her without her knowing, and she needs to make a move on Swati. She gets the numbers together to turn the vote against Swati here in this specific position. I'm very interested to know, Russell, what is your opinion about Drea as a player at this stage? Do you think that out of the Blue Tribe, she could potentially be someone that we could see as a contender? Or if not her, who else in that Blue Tribe is someone that you think could do really well going into a merge situation?
It's tough. Looking at just the episode itself, I'm loving Drea. I love what she's putting out there. But I just watched Swati's exit interview, and it sounded like Drea's being over the top, trying too much to be that strategic leader on the tribe, putting people together. Okay, we're doing this, we're doing that. Kind of like what Rockstar is doing with like stuff around camp. Drea's being the strategic leader, bossing people around. So I'm getting a little worried that they'll get sick of her. And at the opposite end of things, preseason, I was like, what's Romeo doing here? I don't really get a good vibe on him. I'm loving Romeo. Romeo's great out there, and I'm really high on him.
The problem for me between the Romeo and Drea situation at the moment is I feel like Romeo is not going to have the agency or the urgency to make the tide move in a different direction if it comes for him. But Drea, someone that is a bulldozer, people will listen. And I think she reminds me very much. I don't think she's got the same social skills that Tony has, but she's got that explosive nature like a Tony Blackhorse out there, someone that is going to hustle to make things work and happen, and she's not afraid to take risks to get ahead in the game. So I'm personally really enjoying Drea as a player this season. I think that if I had to look at, I think the Blue Tribe is imploding. and that is going to be a bad thing for Roxroy. Not for Roxroy, for Romeo. I just don't see Romeo. I don't know where he lands up. I can easily see him be one of those players that could have been great, but can't play from the bottom. Where Drea, I think she could go on a rampage on her own, join other tribes. She's got that connection with Hai and Lindsay from the amulet that they found together. None of them have spoken about that as of yet. And you've got to ask yourself, why did we see that scene? Why did we see them talking about the fact that they were going to keep it a secret until they get back together? And there could be a potential there that they may want to work together to a certain degree when they get there. Would you agree with that, Jake?
Looks like Russell.
Yeah, he might have just disconnected. We'll see if he comes back on.
Yeah, so I do see the potential with Drea for sure. It's a bit, people may think it's extreme to say, she has Tony upside, but I see it. She's very just aggressive, and I like that, but she wasn't so aggressive that, it caused her to flame out, super early. She's still on her tribe. There's 4 left, and I think she's in a good spot at the moment. Even if they go back to tribal, I think Roxroy's getting the boot, and then from there, she's one of those people that the numbers don't have to be going her way coming into the merge for her to kind of make something happen. Whereas some players, they kind of have to rely on that to get their feet set, be able to move forward. But for her, I think she could thrive regardless.
Yeah. I'm fingers crossed. I want Drea to pay off. The Drea casting choice, I want that to pay off. And I think because she is a business owner, she's someone that is used to taking risk. We know to be successful in life and to be able to run a successful social media platform, a successful, YouTube channel like Rob has a podcast has, or whatever type of level of success that you reach in life, it takes a certain amount of urgency, and you have to force yourself on people to a certain degree to make that happen. And like she says here, she would cut someone very quickly if they were going to cost her $1 million deal. And she very quickly turns here with Romeo against Swati and takes Swati out in this spot. I'm still fearful for this blue tribe, though, because at the end of the day, they lied to Roxroy. They did not let Roxroy know where the votes were going to go. So now they've got 2 players that are not feeling the love there at the moment. We know that Tori is not going to stay loyal to that group, so I think they made a mistake. I think Swati was more likely to stay loyal. And then also Roxroy is now aware that he is not as tight with them as he thought. So overall, I'm very worried for this tribe, but I hope that Drea finds a crack to get deeper in the game, because I am personally enjoying her. I can see all the negatives. I can see her overplaying. I can see her being too forceful in certain social situations. But I do think the longer she's on our screen, the more exciting the end game is going to be here.
Yeah, I just want to say sorry, guys. My Wi-Fi cut out for a sec. I 100% agree. I don't want to touch on anything too much in case you already talked about it. But I'm excited for Drea coming later in the game in the merge. She has her extra vote and that amulet. So I'm excited to see what happens.
Exactly. I want to see how Hai, Lydia, and Lindsay, how they navigate that situation when they get there, because they know that it becomes more powerful when they vote people out. But they're going to have to be very savvy in how they vote people out, because at the end of the day, these people have got the information that can sync each other's game. We don't know if Lindsay has actually told anyone that she's got this amulet. I don't think she has, where Marianne has been very open about the information that she has. She's told everyone about this. So she's going to come across as a lot more trusting to the likes of Omar and Jonathan if Lindsay's cover is blown at the merge.
If Ika loses again, do we say Roxroy goes no matter what? Or is it a toss-up here?
Personally, I think it's no question Roxroy.
But I think Roxroy is still an old school type player. Sure, they lied to him, but he doesn't have enough game to go anywhere else. I feel like Tori will jump ship. So I don't know. What else? I don't know.
I agree with you, Russell. I would personally, not vote Roxroy out. I would want to keep Roxroy in the game. I don't think Roxroy has got like you said, the savviness to create his own counter alliance or go against me or anything like that. But with Tori, she's savvy. She's been at the bottom the whole time, and she's survived every single time to get into the spot that she's in now, and that's dangerous.
Personally, Tori's kind of annoying me out there. I think she's a little bit of a mean girl type thing, but I got to give her some respect. She's playing a great game from the bottom. So,
Yeah, the thing with me with Tori, what doesn't resonate with me is I think she overestimates her own ability to psychoanalyze people and
She's
use her
fake.
profession. Yeah, like I just, if I was out there, I would not have trusted Tori at all. But I mean, I know she's got a lot of love out there in the fandom. There's a lot of people who love her. So, you know, if she goes deep, like you have to, like you said, give respect where respect is due. And at the end of the day, you can't hate her for playing the game.
Yeah.
You know, can't hate that. So it's interesting to me because obviously Swati tries everything here in the tribal council to pin the target back on Tori, but it doesn't play off. And one of the things that I found very interesting, Russell, is that we've now seen the die played, I think 3 times already. Like every single time someone is in danger, they know that they're in danger. And unlike last season, they're willing to go to the 1 out of 6 chance to potentially play the shot in the dark and stay in the game. But we haven't seen it pay off yet. Do you think we see the shot in the dark pay off this season? Or do you think we're going to go through this whole season without seeing a single person successfully playing it?
Well, I think there's so many conversations with the shot in the dark. We could have our own podcast on it. Maybe was the Survivor 41 cast, Shan, Ricard, these people, Liana doing such a good job of convincing their alliances or convincing the people they were targeting, you're safe, don't worry, we're with you, that they had no chance playing the shot in the dark? Or is it the Survivor producers this season are like, oh, you should play it, you should play it, you should play it, shot in the dark is this good thing? And then we could also have this conversation. Look, it's 0 for 4 now. I get that it is a shot in the dark, a Hail Mary. But, I mean, I want to see it work eventually. Like, it's a toss-up there for me. What do you guys think?
I mean, personally, I think it's was your point on, you know, was it that 41 was just good at convincing their alliance? Personally, I do think that's what it was. I do think that Shannon Ricard specifically on that Green Tribe were just, you know, they were just so good at convincing them, like, yeah, you're fine. Yeah. Even with JD, you know, getting his extra vote taken from him for a second time, you know, nothing. Jeannie, the last person other than Shannon Ricard, she's seen how close they are throughout the tribe. Still, you know, doesn't play it. And I think that speaks to their ability to, you know, keep it a blindside. And then this cast this season is not doing that. It's not that they're like making it abundantly clear. It's just that whoever's been in danger has been able to kind of suss it out. Yeah. You know, like Swati kind of like read the room and was like, there's some conversations going on. And you know, we see with Zach, he kind of got the memo. Everyone's just kind of felt it. And same with Jenny. She didn't play it, but she knew that her name was out there, but she knew that she couldn't risk it because you lose your vote. And it's just crazy that everyone has kind of known that their name was floating out there and it just hasn't landed yet. But I would be genuinely shocked if it doesn't land at least once, because
it has to.
Like do we have to have the conversation? Should it be 1 and 4, 1 and 5? Does that change? I mean, I love the idea.
Is it too powerful? Is it too powerful? If it's like 1 out of 4, I don't know. Like it's almost.
So. What about 1 and 6 when Zach pulls it? Whoever was the next person to pull it, Mariah.
1 out of 5.
It becomes 105, and then 1 out of 1. You're getting it. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't completely hate that. I don't completely hate it, because then also it becomes a thing.
So then you have to rework it. Like, first person that goes to vote, they can pull it. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, or you need to try but you also probably need to game it in a way then where if you've got the majority alliance and you know you're going against this minority, at some point you're going to be like, hey, risk the shot in the dark now to take it out of the equation or something like that. Like there would have to be like a counter strategy to try and get rid of it in the game. But what I like about the shot in the dark is it's one of those twists or things that's been brought into the game that I don't mind being there, because it's given us another element and another layer to this game. Because now if you're savvy enough to figure out what's going on, like I don't think Swati was a bad player. I understand she overplayed her hand here. I understand that she went against Drea, but she did so for legitimate reasons. She knew that Drea had an additional vote She didn't know about the other advantage, which would have made it even more so necessary to get rid of Drea, but she knew that Drea had an extra vote. So like she said here in this episode to Tori, if we don't vote Drea out now, Drea and Romeo, they're a tight 2. They're not going to go against each other. They've got 3 votes against our 2 votes, so we're out next. So Swati was trying to play to get control of the game, where Tori was just thinking, I want to survive. Like, she was like desperate to survive, and I don't think Tori is playing a game that's going to get her the win. Swati tried to get to play a game that if she got control of the game and she got into something tighter, she could have had that alliance or driven it a little bit deeper into the game. So for me, I understand she overplayed, but I feel like Swati had potential. For a young player, she had potential. And if she ever does get another opportunity, like Survivor South Africa is doing a returner season this season, which is going to be pre-mergers versus mergers, you never know. We could see a theme like that come up in the US one day where we get pre-mergers, and she could be severely underestimated as a player. But it's tough because Survivor US have had over 40 seasons. I don't know if she will stick out as a pre-merger compared to other people out there, but I just wanted to say, I get why she did what she did, and I would rather try and swing at it than go out without doing anything, if that makes sense.
And for anything else, I'm loving that the shot in the dark is not flopping this season. Survivor 41 with just Sydney, throw it away. It was bad. They gave it the second shot here in Survivor 42, and it's so much fun. And for nothing else, say you're that player on the bottom, you literally have no other things you can do left. No one on the majority alliance is listening to you. You don't have the idol. Throw that shot in the dark. It gives us something to talk about. Like, oh, it could have happened or something, right? Instead of just boring vote, okay, you're gone. There's no more boring votes, theoretically, if a player is smart enough.
Yeah, and Hangout Room, I do want to acknowledge you do have a great point here. Why get rid of Drea with all those advantages when you will need it in the merge? She just had to build trust, and Drea did want to work with Swati. But for us as viewers, we get to see Drea's true intentions when she speaks to the camera. Swati doesn't know that. She doesn't know if Drea truly wants to work with her. So it's a tough one. It's a catch-22. There's one big talking point or big thing from this episode. Like you said, it was a straightforward episode, but there's one big thing we have not spoken about as of yet, and I just remembered it now. At the immunity, we get Marianne again saying the phrase. No one else says the phrase. Will this bloody last idol get found before the merge? What do you
just
think
want to talk about potatoes, guys. I want potatoes. We got to talk about that as well. Were we spoiled on that whole Tori talking about potatoes in the preview at the end? I've heard on YouTube somewhere it got debunked. I don't care. They still decide to show Tori reading it, even if it's not actually her that finds it. The editors decide to trick us to think she found it, even though she was on the chopping block twice. I didn't like that. We haven't talked about that yet. Were you guys mad?
Jake?
I listened to the Survivor specialists talk about this, and they were like, she found it. They're like saying it's like a foregone conclusion. Like, she did find it. Like, they're saying that like the preview showed her finding it. And I'm like, well, they just showed her making a facial expression. And then they showed someone saying it, but it didn't sound like Tori. And also they showed the parchment, but that it didn't show who was holding it. So I agree that they tried to make it look like Tori was.
That's my issue though. If they still try to make it look like she found it, she was on the chopping block twice. Like, are they trying to like triple trick us? Like, who
knows?
There's no many games here. Like, that's the game within the game here. When's Tori gonna find it?
Yeah, that's the game. They got rid of the game within the game last season for this new one. I never thought that, like, when I saw the preview, like, oh, they just spoiled it, like, she finds it. But they did show Marianne and Omer like making like a face at each other. I think that was pretty obvious that they found something. I mean, what else would they be reacting like that to? So with that one, I didn't even actually think about that consciously when I was watching. Was that episode 2 where Mariah went home and it was between her and Marianne? I didn't actually think about that, but looking back on it, that was kind of spoiled. Yeah,
and if you think about it, there's been not Jackson medically evacuated. There's been 4 tribal councils so far. 3 of them have been spoiled technically from that preview. So for all we're praising Survivor 42, there's still improvements there. 3 out of 4 tribal councils, it's been spoiled. not
Yeah.
the best.
But it's still been good.
Yeah,
It's
no,
still-
it's
it's still
been amazing.
Yeah, it's been good despite the editing department and production doing what they're doing. And I've heard sometimes that in the past, Jeff has gotten angry at CBS for spoiling things. I remember a couple of seasons ago, he tweeted at CBS saying, listen to the fans and don't spoil some of the things ahead of time, because there is like this extra element where CBS do their own preview as well as the editors doing their thing as well. So who knows? A bunch of politics happening behind the scenes. I'm just hoping that they don't spoil the merge game and what happens there. But it would be hilarious if we go into this merge without anybody finding that last bloody idol. And poor Marianne is like going to be out there every single time talking about the rabbit. She's going to be talking about it every single time. And hats off to Mike for still keeping us cool and playing this correctly. It's one of the things I've been impressed by this season is that people are playing this thing differently. Last season, everybody immediately spilled the beans. He's keeping that confidential. And as myself and Jake picked up here from last episode, Mike said that if he gets to the merge with this idol and no one knows he's got it, he's got an advantage. So does that mean that the idols automatically activate when they get to the merge this season?
That's what it means, but there's a whole different conversation we can have about on the parchment. It says you must say it. I get that, you play a little give and take here. Yeah. So I think Marianne should have someone should have said to Marianne, you can choose to say it. You don't have to say it, because Mike doesn't have to say it. But for the cards that Mike was dealt, brilliant move he's doing. I just don't know if it's like fully in the game fair.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think, this has been a great recap so far, but let's talk about the top 3 players as we see it on the board right now. And Jake, we'll start with you. We've been doing this every week. As I've mentioned, I'll pull that back up just to give people a reminder of who we currently have here as our top players within the game. This is how the standings stand before we go into this week. We've got Jonathan in number 1. We've got Amara in number 2. High in number 3. Jenny is already out of the game. So the other 3 players that feature on this list is Drea, Daniel, and Mike. So it'll be interesting to see if there is a little bit of changes going into this week. And Jake, we're going to start with you. Who's your number 3 player for this week and why?
I've got High because I just think that he played we didn't really talk about it, or maybe you guys did before I ended up joining, but I think that the way he played the talking to Mike after the tribal council was really, really good. He kind of painted it like, oh yeah, they wanted to split the votes and they told me to vote for you and I didn't want to. So he kind of made it seem like, oh, I was looking out for you. So, and I think Mike is like, oh, wow, yeah. And I think that they're kind of tight now. I mean, we saw them at the challenge kind of hug, and, that could have just been,
Mike told him he loved him. So I love you, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a tight bond, out there.
Yeah. I know. Who knows if Mike is saying that to everyone. So
Mike was a big fan. Mike was a big fan of Ty, before he came onto the season. So does he see similarities between High and Ty potentially out there in the game?
There's only a 1-letter difference in their names. So
exactly.
You like it, yeah. Yeah. So I just think that he kind of played it cool with the backlash. I guess not backlash, but just how that trouble ended, and how he was able to bounce back.
Shocked you didn't put Daniel in the top 3 immediately.
I mean, I will say we didn't talk about this. What do you guys think about Chanel not taking any heat?
We spoke about this briefly at the beginning of the podcast, and I believe, and just to quickly summarize it for your sake, is that if you're telling the truth, you would want to clear your name immediately. And by Daniel trying to take some time before he goes back to clear his name, I don't think he did himself any favors. Let me just put it this way. I wouldn't use Daniel as my lawyer. Like, I wouldn't get him to defend me if he can't defend himself out there in the game. I know it's harsh, but listen.
Good point. Everyone else is probably thinking like, oh, he's just trying to buy some time to kind of come
up with a lie. Yeah.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
All right, Russell, coming over to you. Who's your number 3 pick here for this week?
Number 3 pick is also my winner pick of the season. So this player didn't get it hasn't really got much strategic gameplay all season, but they're always in the conversation, always has something to say. And I think I got to put Taku in here somewhere. So I'm going Lindsay.
Lindsay. Oh, I didn't realize that's your preseason winner pick. Are you still high on her overall to potentially win the season?
Yeah, I still really high on her to win the season. And my thing with Lindsay is they're always making sure she's in the conversation, even though it's not too important that she's there. She warns Jonathan, look, you gotta be in trouble, you gotta look out later, talking about how they're a core alliance. She got that good screen time after that reward, which they didn't need to show that reward. So gotta give it to my girl Lindsay.
We're out on the Erica watch at the moment. It's like, Erica had those episodes as well where she had something to say, even though she wasn't central to the episode, and people slept on her. And we don't want to do that 2 seasons in a row here with Lindsay. So
that's why
good call. Yeah, good call. I'm sleeping on Lindsay at this stage. Like, I still think that the winner is in that tribe, but I don't necessarily think that it's Lindsay at this point. But I wouldn't be angry at that. I think she's playing a very solid game. The one thing that's interesting about her is that she is aware of Marianne and the advantages, and she's got Marianne in her crosshairs. Like, that's the only person within that 3-person group that has sort of mentioned that there's someone else that they're targeting within that group. That's the only person. So you could be onto something there. For me, my number 3 pick here for this week is going to be High as well, similar to Jake for the same reasons. I think High is my preseason winner pick. I still think he's the only person on that tribe that has a chance of winning this game. And similar to what you said, Jake, I mean, he's bouncing out of this. And we talked about this last episode where High was willing to put his life in the game on the line for his alliance member. People are looking at that and saying, why would I not want to work with someone that will throw himself in front of a oncoming train for me and try and save me as an alliance member? Like, that's the kind of person I want to work with. So I feel like High's got a lot of agency in this game. Now, how things fall for him when he gets into the merge and where he ends up, I don't know from that point onwards. But at this stage, I still feel very confident he's playing a good game. So he's my number 3 pick here for this week. Jake, going over to you for your number 2 pick of the week. Who do you have as number 2?
Number 2, I have... Who did I have? Actually,
you didn't think about it prior to coming onto the podcast.
I did.
I feel like we didn't get a lot of the orange tribe this week strategically in any case, but a lot happened in the blue tribe strategically. Like, were you impressed by anyone there potentially in regards to the moves they made, or not so much?
I mean, I have been pretty low on the blue tribe this whole season. I just think they're pretty messy. But so I think I'll put Jonathan number 2.
I knew you wouldn't go one whole episode without putting Jonathan somewhere in your top 3. And this is you couldn't put him number 1 for a 3rd time in a row. So you had to make like a slight adjustment, right?
Of course. Yeah. You got to bump. I mean, he had his little mistake. I had to move him down at least one spot. Yeah. No, I mean, as I said before, my criteria is kind of like, who's got the best game right now. And I think undeniably he's just playing really well. I mean, he pretty much single-handedly like beasted that part of the challenge. I mean, there's not much else he can do. I mean, you win the challenge, you're safe. That's kind of end of the story.
Not always. Hourglass.
Okay. We're talking pre-merge here. We'll get to that. But
I'm telling you now, man, people are going to be rioting if that is what takes Jonathan out of this game. The hourglass, man.
That would be Jeff would take the hourglass twist out because he loves him, I think.
Yeah. I think so as well, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I know he had his little gaffe at the challenge, but I don't know if that's really as big of a deal as we thought, when we first saw it. Still, I think he still deserves to be in the top 3.
Yeah. Russell, who do you have as your number 2 pick here for this week?
So after Jake saying High for his number 3, I was like, okay, I won't do High as my number 3 as well. Then Chris, you do it as well. So my number 2 is High. High had a great game. High's the powerhouse over there on Vati. You guys pointed out perfectly for your number 3s.
Yeah. It's kind of tough because it's like, how do you not put Jonathan somewhere in a top 3 when he is just that dominating force in this game at the moment? I don't think strategically he's running the game. So I am considering Jonathan in this spot here, just based on challenge performances alone and how he's carrying his team. I kind of want to put him in here somewhere. So I feel like I'm going to do it. Like, I am going to put someone from the blue tribe in number 1, because I always like to have someone that actually had an influence in where the votes went, as a top player. I just don't think that there's anybody else in blue this episode. Actually, you know what? I'm going to change it. I've decided to change it up right here on the podcast. This is how we do things here, because I would like to have Jonathan somewhere, but in reality, there was nothing voting wise, nothing strategy wise. So I do think 2 players deserve to be named here from the Blue Tribe this episode. So I'm going to give my number 2 spot to Tori this week. And the reason I'm giving my number 2 spot to Tori is because Tori, for all we could see, was going home in this spot. Like, everybody was targeting her. She had no core alliance, but a lot of players would have died in this situation and would have just gone down with the sinking ship. But she did change the course of direction. She had the conversations that she needed to have with Drea, Romeo, and Rox to turn things around. Now, Rox didn't come her way, but she did manage to get both Drea and Romeo to work with her here. And they both believe that Tori is loyal to them, when in the next part of the episode going into next week, the preview, we're seeing that she's willing to jump ship. So I think Tori, yes, maybe she's a little bit confident in her own ability. Yes, maybe that comes across, but I do think she has got some potential to move. And she did call out Goliath here this episode, but I would not be surprised if she runs to Goliath's arms and tries to find some comfort in the Orange Tribe when they get to the merge. This could be a little bit of foreshadowing here in the future. And I think Tori is a sleeper where you had the sleeper in Lindsay. I'm gonna go there. I'm glad I thought this through before I went for the obvious Jonathan in the top 3 here. And what do you guys think of Tori, since we haven't really spoken too much of her? Do you like this, or do you think I'm like smoking something at the moment?
No, I don't think you're crazy for it, but I think maybe I was overthinking a bit, because I'm kind of going back on my criteria of who played well right now, and I think she did do well at pulling herself out of a really sucky situation. I mean, from what we saw, it looked like it was going to be unanimous on her, and she was able to
exactly
flip it. So, it's too late now, but I think I would consider maybe putting her in my top 3 on second thought. And hey, am I crazy for that?
We're wild out here tonight.
Maybe I'm too caught up in the moment. Maybe I'll regret it. But overall, I do think that Tori, I don't see her winning at this moment. Because I think what you guys...
This is power rankings for this week, Jake. This is power rankings for this week. Who played the best game this week?
Our thoughts on Tori. So
yeah, okay.
I'll tell you my thoughts. Okay, I won't go there. But personally, I don't think you're crazy for putting her.
Yeah, I know, Russell, you're not a big fan of Tori, so
I think you're crazy anyway. But
Chris, you are.
I am a little bit.
A
little bit.
No, like, I'm not the highest on Tori as a character, but as a Survivor player, she's up there. She should have gone home this week, and she was able to work her way out of it. My whole thing is, what happens if Ika goes to Tribal Council again? It's going to be Rockstroy, or it's going to be Tori. If Drea and Romeo are smart, they'll vote out Tori, but we'll see. If she makes it to the merge, I think we'll see her for most of the season. We'll see what happens there, though.
I think she's not with her tribe. She hasn't found her people yet, and she doesn't fit into that group that she's with. But
she's a Goliath, and she didn't get picked on the Goliath's tribe.
There you go. I think Taku, she's going to fit in really well with that group. So I'm calling it now. There could be some foreshadowing here with the call out of Goliath over in Taku. But Jake, we're going to go into the pointy end of it here. We're getting into the first place picks. Who's your first place pick for this week based on the power rankings of who you thought played the best game here in this episode?
So first off, I just thought of something, and I don't want to let it go to waste before I forget. We've seen some scenes on Taku about religion, and we know Tori is very religious. She's Christian. We know Jonathan and Marianne are Christian.
Yeah.
You can fill in the blanks there. I mean,
yeah,
that's something that's going to be one of the first things that you talk about when you meet people at the merge. If Tori makes it, and I think we're kind of assuming that Jonathan is making it. You're going to say like, oh yeah, like what type of person are you? You're going to talk about yourself, and you're going to say, oh, I'm a Christian, and then they're going to bond over that, and that could totally play into Tori finding her people there. So I think you were on to something there, Chris, with Taku. her maybe finding her people in Taku.
I didn't even think of that angle. So good observation.
Yeah, I thought it was a pretty interesting scene that they pointed that out, the religion on Taku. So maybe it does come into play.
Because there's a lot of seasons you'd imagine, because America is in general, there's a lot of, it's a big religious country. Like, I'm not saying everybody's religious, but I think if you compare it to other countries, like there's more Christians and different religions as well in that country probably than a lot of other places. So I would imagine this comes up season after season, but we don't always see it make its way onto the TV show. So it's good that they don't do these things by accident. There's a reason why they show us certain things on the screen. So you could definitely be onto something. Just like potatoes. There you go. It always comes back to the potatoes. All right, Jake, so number one.
Back to the topic at hand. I am actually going with someone from the Blue Tribe. I am going with Romeo.
Right. Tell us what you think of Romeo. I know that Russell likes Romeo as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I didn't get to kind of add on to it, but I totally agree with Russell that Romeo is definitely impressing me, and I don't know if I was quite as low on him as you were, but I think you and I were kind of like in the middle on him. Kind of
probably, yeah.
Yeah. I didn't really see, like, he just didn't really stand out to me too much, but he is standing out to me now. And I do kind of think that the Blue Tribe is very messy, and overall I don't quite see the winner coming from there. I think we all kind of agree that it's going to be Taku, but as of right now, I said my criteria is this week, and I think Romeo played it very well. He was never in danger. He got all the facts, and he was able to discuss it with everyone, and he played the middle really well of like, okay, with Drea, what do you want to do? We can go either or, Tori or Swati, and Drea was kind of in the hot seat, and he never got to touch any of that. So for right now, I think he's in a really good spot next episode.
Okay. Russell, what do you think, I guess, of this pick? Do you have a different pick in mind for your number one? Where are you going to?
Well, I got a different pick myself, but I like the pick of Romeo. Like I said, I'm really high on Romeo, actually, and especially comparing that against all the preseason stuff I read about him. I was like, what do we got here? But Romeo's gonna be a great player, and I'm excited to see him make the merge. Him and Drea are both gonna make the merge, I'm guessing here. Number one, my top pick here, this power rankings. It's tough. He didn't go to tribal council tonight. He's not on the Vati tribe. He's not on the Ika tribe. He's the only person that got a flashback story this episode. He dominated 2 challenges. But there's so many reasons behind it. We gave the story, the flashback to his life back at home. He dominated 2 challenges for his tribe. They made sure to stick the landing there with the Tori talking about he's a Goliath. I think it was Hai who said, oh, we got Thor out here on the other tribe. We didn't normally in Survivor, they cut some reward challenges, especially if it wasn't fun to watch like this. They still chose to show Jonathan dominating 2 challenges. Let's go, my boy. You're winning the game. Let's go.
All in on the Jonathan train here, Russell. I like Jonathan as a character. I want him to do well. I didn't expect to find, like, normally you find that person or two in a season that you're behind them. You want them to win. Last season, I didn't have that horse in the race. Like, I was like, whoever wins, wins. I couldn't care less last season is kind of how I felt. And there were, in my mind, some decent characters on the season. I enjoyed watching that season to a certain degree until I got this cast and realized how deprived we were of a top tier cast. Like, I've got the Kagian Survivor t-shirt on here today, which is my favorite season of all time. Had the best newbie cast in my opinion ever, but this season is starting to rival Kageyan level of cast for me. Like, I just love this cast, and I love this Taku tribe. I said, Jake, before you came on, I think Taku might be my favorite tribe of all time right now. I'm really enjoying the dynamic between these 4. I think they balance each other out really well. I even love Marianne. Like, she's kind of come down, she's toned down a little bit, like, I think that she's not at that same level. She's not coming in at 200% like she did in the first couple of episodes, but I hear you on Jonathan, man. I think both me and Jake love Jonathan, but I am going to mix it up here. I'm not going to have Jonathan in my top 3 because I feel like Jonathan has had enough praise. People are loving him enough. He's going to continue probably to lead our outright points for now. But I'm going to stay with the blue tribe. Like I said, I like to stay with the tribe where the actual strategy happened and somebody had to get voted out. I hear you on Romeo. I still believe Romeo. Yeah, I believe Romeo is in trouble when they get to emerge, and if he doesn't have numbers, I don't think Romeo. And I'm happy, Romeo, if you're listening to this, I'm happy to be proven wrong. I can only go by the edit, right? But I don't think you've got the agency or the urgency to make things happen if you fall outside of the numbers. So therefore, I'm going to go for a wild card pick in Drea. And I think that Drea, the first episode or two, Jake knows, I said, she's completely overplaying. She's way too aggressive, too fast. But then I had to think about this. Some of the better players that we've ever had in the game were like a shot out of a cannon. And they were like really, really into the game, taking it by the scruff of the neck and making things happen. And Drea is doing that here, but she's a female player doing that. So let's give her respect as a female player that is playing a very strong and aggressive game, that she could be someone, I think if she gets to the end, she wins. Because Drea getting to the end will be phenomenal. She's going to have to pull out moves that we've never seen in this game before at Tony Vlacho's level of crazy Kage-Yan all over the place. Like, I mean, Tony Vlacho's and Kage-Yan as well, pre-merge. I don't think a lot of people thought he was going to win. A lot of people, I remember that season saying when they watched it live that he was too aggressive, he was overplaying, he was doing the most when he shouldn't. Drea could be the female version of that. I just don't know if his social game is there yet. That's the only asterisk I'll put next to her for now. But she did take out a big threat in Swati who tried a gun for her here. And it's someone that came across as innocent and sweet, that she potentially wouldn't have seen the knife coming. That threat is dealt with here before they go into the merge. So that's one less player that's going to go against her. She's got the cross-tribal connections with Hai and Lindsay, where I can see that amulet thing coming back and potentially either creating an alliance or something where she's going to have some information that she could use to her, I guess, gain in the merge to get ahead in the game. So for me, I do think Drea is someone that needs to be mentioned here. And I'm happy to be slightly on a different track than you guys are with my top three this week, because let's share the love. I feel like it's such a great cast. We could like so many people out there, and that a lot of people are playing this game very hard. Russell, final thoughts on Drea as a player and my take on her, and also, I guess, the season as a whole. What are you expecting here for the rest of the season?
Go Canada, go. That's all I got. We got Drea, we got Marianne, we got Omar. All three Canadians are still in the game. They're all probably going to make the merge, which is awesome. I like
all big characters. Yeah. All three of them big characters.
Yeah. Honestly, if I was doing this a smarter way, I probably should have picked Drea or Romeo. But I just loved how over the top Jonathan was this episode, so that's why I did it. But I agree with both your picks for different reasons. I probably would have leaned a little more onto the Romeo side of things, but both of them are doing really good. As a season as a whole, I'm enjoying the season again. I'm enjoying Survivor again. I feel like 41, I was kind of tricking myself with this false positivity because I didn't want to come in every week on my own channel trashing the episodes every week. They weren't, it wasn't the most fun. Let's just say that. So I wanted to try to fake myself into liking the episodes. Or this season, I'm looking forward to every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock watching Survivor again. This is great.
Yeah. Jake, how about you? You enjoying the season at the moment, and any thoughts here going into next week? What should we expect?
I'm definitely enjoying the season. I think that it's a kind of a harsh way to put it to say, you're tricking yourself, but I kind of agree with the sentiment. Survivor was on a 1.5-year hiatus, and it came back, and we were all just so excited. And I don't think 41 was bad, but I think that 42 is better. And I think hindsight, we're seeing that this is better. So we're kind of like lowering our opinions on 41 now, like as time goes on. So long story short, I'm enjoying this season. I really like the cast. I just think they're really fun, and I'm really excited for the merge. I think that there's going to be some fireworks.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're in for a really, really big game, especially if you obviously don't know any spoilers, but if you listen to some of the people who are in the know and who have spoken to producers and things like that off air, they've said that there's been some hints that have been given that this season is going to rival the likes of Kagayan in regards to its post-merge game. So if that's the case, then that's why I feel very confident in someone like a Drea being explosive or a Jonathan beasting his way to the end. There has to be something massive that's going to happen. And like you guys said, so many exciting characters. I look forward to watching it every week. I'm so happy that I did not have to recap and I didn't have this channel in season 41 because I would have been the same as you, Russell. I would have had to fake it some weeks. Like there were fun moments within those seasons, but it was like when it was really good, we all realized why Survivor is a show that we love to watch 40 seasons later or 41 seasons later. But when it was really bad, you were thinking to yourself, man, is this the end of Survivor? Like it was that bad when it got to the low points last season. And so far, this season has been consistent. It's been consistently fun to talk to everybody about this every week. And for those that have been here in the live stream, be sure to check out Russell's channel. If you came over from there, thank you very much for watching it today with us. But subscribe to Russell. He does great videos on YouTube every week, top fives. There's buffs that he gives away to subscribers all the time. So, gives back to the community. I personally love talking to you this week, Russell, about the top 10 challenge beasts. What else do you have? Is there any sneak peek you can give people in regards to what they can expect on the channel next?
Well, other than my schedule usually is, today was a little different because it's April 1st, April Fool's Day. I made a video how I bought Jeff Probst a beer today, so make sure to check that out. Usually my schedule is Thursday, I recap the episode. Friday, I do a YouTube short kind of breaking down the promo for the next week. Sunday, I just do a fun video talking to the camera like this. And then Tuesday is my highly edited top 10. I know the next 2 weeks I have collabs coming out with Once Upon an Island and then Snuffed. So those will be fun to check out. But other than that, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, it's been awesome having you here. Guys, if you got to this point, please consider subscribing to this channel, hitting a like on it for more Survivor content. We've got Australian Survivor wrapping up over the weekend. We do also have, since we've hit 500 subs, the live giveaway this week of this bad boy here, an Australian Survivor buff for last season's merge. Those buffs are quite expensive. They go for about 750 USD if you can actually get them because they're so rare. They only make 100 of those every season. So be sure to put a comment, not just in the live, but after this video has gone on the channel, put a comment on there to go into the draw for that and look out for that this coming week. We've also got the Challenge CBS, the Challenge All-Stars, so much challenge content and amazing race content that also drops on this channel. So continue to look out for that. Jake, always fun talking to you. Russell, it's been a pleasure, and catch you guys next time.